the idea through this campaign of putting them both together is, number one, to raise enough money for both organizations to make it through an entire year without having to sweat, and to allow them during that year to really focus on reaching out to the community and building enough awareness so that by the time we get here next year, by the time the funds raised today are used up or are starting to be depleted, that the community knows on its own that these are organizations that are important to be supporting.
All right, let's start with the Eruv if we can, because so many communities would find it shocking that an Eruv actually has a budget, has financial needs, has staff and procedural matters that need to be paid for, but you see it from the vantage point of overseeing all this. What can you tell our audience?
Well, it's easy. I mean, everyone knows the Eruv has budget. We have to pay the people that check it, because some people do it on a daily, once a week. The entire day is
the Hatzoloh group everywhere is unbelievable. I'm proud to be part of it, both here and in New York. Obviously, a much smaller organization here, close-knit organization. We're 50 guys now, close-knit. We're all like brothers to each other. We know each other intimately, and really proud to be part of the group.
Would you?
Really proud to be part of the group.
My daughter was probably 2 years old, maybe almost 2. She woke up in the middle of the night with a very bad cough, and as a first-time mom, I kind of, just thought it was a regular cold. Sat with her for a little bit until I started realizing she was having a really hard time breathing, to the point where she wasn't. Her mouth was open and she was trying to cry. Her face was kind of turning a little, not the color you want anyone's face to turn. And frantically, my husband and I were running around trying to figure out what to do. We had the Hatzoloh sticker on our board, and I told him to call, and within, I would say, 2 minutes, Chaim Weinberger, if I can say his name, walked into my house, kind of like this aura of calmness, sat down with all of his things and his team, had a mask on my daughter within a couple of seconds, and with the proper medication to help get oxygen running to her again, constantly just talking to us, keeping us calm, telling us, what to do. And then about probably 15-20 minutes later, the paramedics showed up. And to this day, if I would have waited for the paramedics, I don't really know what would have happened. They're just a great, and it happened more than once. Fortunately, after that first episode, we knew exactly what to do, and our first phone call was always to Hatzoloh, and it was always Chaim that came to our house. He lives within a very close distance to my house, so he was always there. He came when my son had croup. He came when my daughter had a couple of more episodes. Always the same, calm aura of a man, and always following up with everything. He came when I had my third child. He even stayed after the paramedics left. He held my baby at 2 o'clock in the morning and wanted to know about, how he was. Just a great organization that I don't think I would ever be able to, I don't think anyone can live without.
And today, we're doing somewhat, I wouldn't say the opposite, but somewhat of a different approach, and that is that, number one, we want all Torontonians to support these two causes and make today a success. But I think there are a lot of people in this audience who are familiar with this community and know how great it is and know how wonderful a community it is to support going forward. And I think they should be involved as well.
I think everybody should be involved. I think both of these causes are ones which support the entire Toronto, Thornhill, Vaughan community, and I think it's important for everyone to step up and be a part of it. Most of the Jewish community lives along the Bathurst corridor, right. So we kind of all spring off of that street. But
some of us don't realize how long that corridor is.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the services are applicable for everybody, and I think it's imperative that everyone get up and support the cause.
Very nice.
I can tell you that the buzz throughout the city is unbelievable. It's the first time in a long time that it's almost starting to feel like New York here.
Is that the goal?
No, like the energy. Toronto doesn't have energy like this. It's unbelievable what's going on. And I just want to remind people listening and watching and supporting that these are two organizations that everybody uses, and if you use it, you have a responsibility to support them. Even if it's $1, if it's $10, if it's $18, whatever it is, everything is being quadrupled today, so make 4 times the impact.
Chief Gord McCacken, who's chief of Toronto's paramedic services, is with us live via telephone. Chief, good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
A pleasure.
Real pleasure to be here with you today.
Appreciate that very much. I'm sure you're aware at this point that today's a very big day for the Hatzoloh organization. They are one of the beneficiaries of the charity.com/Toronto campaign, which officially begins in less than an hour, but people already are donors. What can you tell us and this audience about the staff and volunteers of Hatzoloh?
Well, I can tell you for one thing, it's a very important group for us in paramedic services. This volunteer group we've been involved with since 1998.
Wow.
And these are really impressive members of the community because they really understand the needs of the Jewish community. And for us, it's a real honor to work with them. We do a tremendous amount of work in the city. We do over 300,000 calls each year. And any support that we can get from first responders in the community is extremely, extremely important. And our relationship with Hatzoloh over the years has been outstanding. And the group of folks at the organization have truly been leaders in this type of work. So I can't say enough about them. It's just a wonderful relationship and a very important partnership for us.
Sometimes it's hard to believe how difficult it is to become a volunteer, the training that's necessary, the commitment of one's family. You know what it's like to run out in the middle of the night and take care of others. It's not always an easy thing. I think all these elements, people who are considering supporting this cause have to keep that in mind. There's a tremendous amount of dedication involved.
Absolutely. It's special people, right? It's a real honor to give back to the community, but it takes a special person to do that. And the trust and confidence one has in these individuals, and to be a volunteer and to do this work on their own, it's an extremely important component for the community to recognize. It's a real honor to work with these folks, and I really, really want people to emphasize that these are special people. They care for people, and they really care for their community.
Speaking with Chief Gord McCacken, Chief of Toronto's Paramedic Services, in your career, I would assume there's been a lot of changes in the area of being a paramedic and emergency services in general. Things are much different in 2018, much more advanced, and thank God we're able to take advantage of all that technology and save even more lives.
Absolutely. The really good thing about, or one of the most impressive things about paramedicine is that it's an evolving, ever-changing profession, and it changes based on science and medical evidence. So the paramedics are challenged with keeping up with medical progress in caring for folks. But that's the type of people they are. They really like the challenge, and they're always moving forward.
Paul Thorne, welcome to JM in the AM.
Well, good morning, Nachum, and thank you very much for having me join in this morning.
Are you kidding?
And again, thank you for supporting such a great cause this
Yeah,
morning. How are you?
It's our pleasure to support this cause. It's also our pleasure to welcome you with your distinguished resume to the show. We talk about being familiar with Hatzoloh. It sounds like with your background, in general, you're familiar with emergency services. You're familiar with quick response. You're familiar with the importance of accurate critical event notifications. This is an organization that I'm sure speaks directly to you in terms of how important it is to the community.
Well, you're 100% right, and it's funny because having been involved in law enforcement in those areas for several years, it was only really a few short years ago I got to learn about Hatzoloh in a very odd way. I had the privilege of being out with a couple of friends, and one of them sitting at the table had what I thought was a police radio, and of course I looked over and said, "Why would you have a police radio?" He said, No, this is a Hatzoloh radio. I said, "Well, tell me more about that." So in the time period that we were together, of course, a radio call comes across. And of
I
course,
knew it.
This good friend of mine, David Stein, here in Toronto, he looked at me and says, "Well, do you want to go?" Well, growing up in the days of emergency on TV in the 70s, and I thought, wow, this is like Johnny Gage and Roy DeSoto. And I said, absolutely, let's go. Should we take my car? Because, of course, at the time I had an off-duty police car.
Right.
And he goes, "Oh, absolutely not. I've got everything I need in my truck here." So off we went, and literally around the corner. So I was absolutely amazed at the efficiency and the ability that David had that I didn't know he had. Because, of course, he's a business guy. He's not a surgeon. He's not a doctor. But I can tell you, Nachum, what I think is pretty amazing here is that having been involved in many, many types of emergency responses in my career and involving several organizations, some of which we pre-planned and some that were just exigent, I have to say that I was totally impressed by the professionalism and the caring and the understanding of the Hatzoloh response. So going to scenes myself as a first responder, you go in there with some sort of authority. You go in there expected by the public to be there to do certain things.
Right.
And certainly to me, what I saw with David and all those that responded, because they responded, they were caring, compassionate, they understood cultural issues and differences. And to me, the true mark of any volunteer organization is certainly the way in which volunteers interact with not just the end users, the victims, but city emergency response services and personnel.
Right.
So this to me was totally seamless. There was no doubt in my mind that every responder and volunteer, they respected one another and they worked on each other's capabilities, which to me is paramount.
Yeah,
You don't want people in the way. You want people working together. And Hatzoloh trains their folks. They have great understanding. Just awesome work.
All those factors you mentioned are so critical. And Paul Thorne is with us live via telephone, charity.com/Toronto. Yummy mentioned to me in advance of this conversation, and we said it in your intro, that you're familiar with Hatzoloh in Israel. And I don't have to tell you that of all the things, and believe me, Hatzoloh in Israel, is to be admired for a variety of things. But probably the paramount area that they've built their reputation on has been speed and the way they deal with it. And I think that that's such an important aspect of this entire effort, because it seems like, based on what we've been told, and you've just confirmed it for us, that there's an amazing response time among the Toronto Hatzoloh volunteers that has to be admired. And it's not just the ability to mechanically get to a place. You need the motivation and determination to be somewhere in record time. And I'm sure that's one of the things that impresses you about this group.
It's funny you mentioned that. And, of course, I'll give a shout-out to Yummy, because it was Yummy and David. I had the great privilege of getting to go to in the time, they were just about to open the new Hatzoloh in Jerusalem. And,
right.
And later on, Yummy had me introduced to Eli Beer, which is a great man for setting it up. And yes, like when you look at just the Israeli response times, even Toronto's, they're 3 to 4 minutes. Unfortunately, first responders in city situations now, due to multiple reasons, they're not really able to respond in 3 minutes. And that's not knocking our local services. It's just that they're at a greater reach. But you're looking at Toronto alone with 65 active volunteers. Last year, they did 1,517 calls for service using 3,200 responders. Everybody has to remember, it's not just the guy and the folks in the car going to do the actual hands-on work. It's dispatch. It's the working through the call to make sure it's going to the right area. All of these people should be commended for the work they do, and they do it on top of what they do day in, day out. Look after their families, look after their businesses, do multiple other charitable events. This is something that, in my mind, it just floored me, because I know we all have busy days. But for folks to be able to engage like this, to take care of their community, and not turn a blind eye to anybody else, is just absolutely amazing. And you mentioned Israel, but we have to remember Canada, the U.S., Panama, France, the U.K., South Africa. It's absolutely phenomenal, and it certainly, as a first responder, it's a model that I like. It's a model I certainly believe could be transferred everywhere in this world, because everybody has to do more with less. And quite frankly, necessity has become the mother of invention, as we all know. A cliche, but it's very true.
Yep.
This to me is, it's just awesome. I can't say enough about it. I can't say enough about what the folks are doing at Hatzoloh. Having seen calls, been on calls, and actually been to a dinner a couple of years ago, my hat goes off to these folks, because they certainly know what they're doing, and they're very prepared to do it.
Speaking with Paul Thorne, well, the only thing left for me to ask you is to help me encourage everybody who's listening to participate in this campaign. As you know, half of the charity campaign today is going to the Hatzoloh organization in Toronto. We anticipate great success. If you could just toss in a word encouraging people to give as generously as possible.
Absolutely. I've actually jotted it down here, and I don't think it does justice. My message to all your listeners today is that we never know when we might be on the other end of that phone call, where we require help, where our loved ones require the response of Hatzoloh for whatever reason. We can't quantify the number of lives they've saved already, because there's probably so many of them. But what you can do today is whatever you can give, and as generous as you can be today, I would urge everybody to take some time, even go to the website, phenomenal website. Donate what you can, help everybody in our community be safe, and do that through providing the support Hatzoloh needs to respond to calls for service, because that's the only way we can do it. And with that being said, Nachum, I really want to thank you again, and those in Toronto Hatzoloh for asking me to speak today. David Stein knows this is from the heart, because I've had great experiences with you folks, and I believe it's an organization that needs support. So please, folks, dig in, support Hatzoloh, and hopefully one day you won't need them.
Amen to that. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Have an awesome day, folks.
How long have you been involved with the Toronto Eruv?
Since the 90s, about 25 years now.
And what could you tell us that people don't realize?
The Eruv cost a lot of money. People think it's a piece of string, and it's not. My job is to go under bridges and check markers under the bridge, to go into aqueducts and check the markers in the aqueducts, to inspect the fencing along the railway tracks. We do not walk on the railway tracks without protection, by the way. I don't recommend doing that. I brought one of our tools, actually, that we check the lechis, which are considered the side of a door, using laser technology. This little device is a $500 device that will tell us exactly what's above it, and we use it to check the alignment of poles.
The Eruv is something that we don't see physically when we're walking in the street Shabbos, but I can tell you there is so many benefits. There is an unknown group called the Table Boys that make sure that there are no single people left Shabbos on their own.
Wow.
Often the last minute Friday, it's an incredible thing. And often Friday night, I know the guys that are involved, they'll make some phone calls, they'll get 10 people together, and people just bring their food together and be Shabbos, not be stuck in an apartment alone. And it's, besides bringing about Shidduchim, it makes people that would otherwise be on their own and lonely for an entire Shabbos have the possibility. It's not just about strollers. It goes so much further. And it's an incredible thing, and it takes people, it takes a tremendous amount of dedication and finances to keep that going.
I'm so glad you mentioned this. I'm so glad you mentioned this, because we, of course, have been going to the default of talesim and strollers, but what you just said is so inspiring. It gives an opportunity for people who would normally be alone to be together on Shabbos, which is just great.
It's unbelievable. We don't even know the half of what it does. But it really it's a thing that binds the community.
The amazing and incredible international comedic sensation Modi, who's now in New York City, is with us live via telephone. Modi, welcome to JM in the AM.
How are you, Nachum?
Baruch Hashem, everything's doing great.
Everybody already knows what Hatzoloh is, what they do, and how important they are. These are men that deal and are metasking with blood and dying and accidents and heart attacks, and these are men that do anything they can to run out of the house where their wife is. I knew I was gonna laugh at Yumi on that one. These are men that as soon as they hear a beat, they run out of their house, even if it's the microwave. The wife is warming up some soup. Beat, done. They are out.
You know,
they never forget their keys.
You see,
keys. I've never seen so many keys. Every Hatzoloh guy, as soon as you get your EMS license and you're assigned to a unit, they give you 4,000 keys. Is it me? No.
Oh, we know about the keys. Trust me.
In preparing for the show, in all fairness, Nachum told me if I'm coming to Toronto, you need to line up a wide array of people who will speak from all different perspectives about the community and about the Eruv and about Hatzoloh. And I said, who better than Modi, who really is one of the world experts on Hatzoloh volunteers and Eruv things, all things Eruv. So, you're laughing. This isn't a laughing matter. This is seriously.
I want you to know, in New York, I perform for the volunteers. I perform for fundraisers of Hatzoloh. But you know, what am I going to speak and say how amazing they are? I'm sure you have people on the show that. So we're looking for the humor in it. Now the second thing is the Eruv. Am I right?
Oh, here we go. Go ahead. Let's hear about the Eruv.
The Eruv, which is the second hardest thing in Judaism to describe to a non-Jew.
Second hardest.
The second. Of course, the first being a Shabbos elevator.
Ah, okay. Got it.
You can never describe. How do you tell? How do you tell? Never mind. You ever try explaining an Eruv to a non-Jew?
It's difficult.
No, it's difficult. No, it's not. It's not. It's fun. It's fun to describe an Eruv to a non-Jew. It's difficult to describe an Eruv to a Jew who's not observant.
Right.
That's when you have the problem. That's difficult. And he goes, "Hey, Bill, you hear this? Wait. Him and his wife tie a string, a dental floss around the neighborhood, and now his wife can push the cart on Friday." It's just, you can't describe these things. But the Eruv is something that changes the lives of everybody living in the neighborhood.
Nice, right? We have Dovi, Yosef, Aaron, Menachem, and Itamar. And the five of them together, I guess, are your choir this morning? Would that be accurate?
They are the choir.
They are the choir. And what is the song that you've taught them for this morning's show?
The song that they want to sing this morning is Hatzoloh Toronto and a phone number.
So this is sort of like a tribute to Hatzoloh of Toronto,
Yes.
and they're going to give everybody who's listening now in Toronto an easy way to remember the Toronto Hatzoloh phone number.
Yes.
Is this a song that you composed?
The tune is Karlbach.
Ah, there you go.
And the words are mine, but there's like 5 or 6 words in the song, so it's not so complicated.
All right, well, you have a very good co-author, I can say that much. Here we go. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready for this performance?
Are you ready?
You guys ready to sing? Yes?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Rabbi Kleiner your Rebbe, Rabbi Kleiner, is going to lead you and tell you exactly what to do. You look at him and sing into the microphone. Here we go.
You ready? And a 1 and a 2 and a 1, 2, 3, go. Hatzoloh.
Toronto, this is the number that you need to know. Toronto, this is the number that you need to know. 416-256-1000, 416-256-1000, 416-256-1000.
This is a fantastic campaign for both causes. I actually lived in a community for 3 years that didn't have an Eruv, and I don't think people realize the impact when you take it for granted, but we went to shul every Shabbos. There were no children at shul. Imagine what a Shabbos with no children at shul looks like. It's, again, something we take for granted, but it changes the whole landscape of your Shabbos when you don't have an Eruv, and it's invisible, and we don't think about it, but we got to think about it because our lives would be quite different without it. And our lives would obviously be very different if we didn't have the safety net and the security of knowing that we have community members who are out there saving lives every day. The peace of mind that we all have knowing that Hatzoloh is in Toronto, you can't quantify that feeling.
Okay, so Josh has been a Hatzoloh volunteer for about 20 years now, and I can say that he's really an inspiration to, our daughters and myself, in the sense that call comes in, whether it's dead of winter, whether it's a Shabbos meal.
Middle of the night,
it doesn't matter. He doesn't flinch, and he's up and he's ready to go to help a fellow Jew no matter what time of day. And he really has sacrificed and given of himself as every single Hatzoloh volunteer has done. And we're so proud of the entire organization. And the Eruv, as Hadassah said, makes our lives so much better.
Yeah.
So 2 amazing causes.
And that's why Donnie and I don't mind at all that our husbands sometimes aren't around, because we know how important it is, and we're willing to make that sacrifice, I think, in our family lives, and knowing that it's not really a sacrifice, like Donnie said, that it's an inspiration and it's a message to our children about what's important.
Right.
And
being there for others.
Yeah.
How long has Jeremy been a volunteer?
Jeremy's only been a volunteer for a few months, so
Oh, really?
I'm not in the
Wow.
same boat as Donnie.
Josh is how long?
20 years
20
since
years.
it started.
Wow.
So it's only been a few months, but I think what sometimes people don't realize is that these Hatzoloh members it's not like a designated time that they're on call. This is
Right.
all the time.
24 hours,
24
7
hours.
days.
Jeremy.
Middle of the Pesach Seder, middle of the
Exactly.
Sukkot meal.
Bath time.
Bath time.
It's typically when it happens for me. I don't know why. For our family, it is a little bit of a sacrifice. My husband travels during the week, so he's not around. And weekends, when normally we would have that family time, he's very often getting called out. And but we're really okay with it, and it's totally worth it. And I'm so proud of him, and our girls are really proud of him.
Speaking with Rabbi Daniel Kropkin, who is the rabbi of the Bayit here in the Thornhill area of Toronto. Why is it important for everybody to participate in today's campaign?
Very, very basic. We all benefit from these two vital services to our community. Each and every person has that responsibility. And Hatzoloh is the same thing. We all benefit from having that insurance policy of having an emergency responder coming to your home within 2 minutes. And who wouldn't want to pay for that? I can't even imagine someone saying, I'm not going to support this. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't I want it? It would be the first thing on my list.
And who on earth ever dreamt that Nachum Segal and Adina Abramov would reunite in Toronto, Canada? Yes, that Adina Abramov, who's now in Toronto with the Eitz Chaim schools, and we're talking about the city of Toronto. And you just mentioned it. I mean, it's obvious. Everyone knows why we're here. We want to encourage more and more people from both in and outside of Toronto to be as generous as possible. The Eruv will be supported. Hatzoloh will be supported. You're familiar with charity campaigns. You know how effective they are. And this one really looks like it's off the charts.
Absolutely. Actually, Eitz Chaim last year ran a charity campaign together with a number of other Jewish day schools in Toronto, and we were, I believe, the #1 fundraiser in Toronto because we are the community school. So the organizations like Hatzoloh and Eruv to us really resonate. And in fact, Eitz Chaim is going to be coming out today in large numbers to the telethon headquarters. Our head of school, Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz, will be there at 1:30, joined by Mr. Chaim Rutman, who is one of our co-presidents. He'll be there as well, making calls. A
very important part of the whole operation, to have people there making calls.
Absolutely, and Eitz Chaim will be there in large numbers, visible numbers. We have Rafal Alter will be there, a number of Rebbeim will be there, and we have a rotation going throughout the day. So Eitz Chaim has been encouraging parents, Rebbeim faculty to come out really in large numbers. So come out at 1:30, whoever would like to meet our head of school, meet some of the board members. Definitely, you'll see us there.
I want to thank Shimshi Gross, who's on the committee of hosts for us here at JMD. And thank you for serving as a member of the committee. And I also want to a big shout out to Libby Gross, who was also instrumental and a member of the committee of hosting us here this morning. So you'll convey that to her as well, please. Yeah. People like yourself went to different people in the community and said, look, it's time to step up. We've got to get this whole matching thing going. Otherwise, this campaign can't be kicked off.
So absolutely. I should say that really it was quite refreshing and really a tremendous chizuk for me to be able to, I went to quite a few individuals in the community, and people really did step up. I mean, honestly, I'm passionate about the organizations that we're representing here. So I think that does go bring this a little further and bring it home to people. But people really did step up.